All right, I'll say greetings to you this evening of your time as you create time to exist. How are you?
Excellent.
Oh, thank you very much. Allow me to begin this interaction with the following. We have discussed many times many ideas, but one of those ideas is the fact that you can only experience a reality that you are already the vibration of. You will always attract to you just exactly that you are absolutely able and absolutely qualified in that way to explore and to, in that sense, experience. One idea that we wish to share this evening is, in a sense, a bit of a paradox in the way that it is usually viewed by your situation. And perhaps in discussing it from this particular point of view, it will allow you just enough of a change in perspective to begin to get a different effect. Much of what we are discussing has to do with what you sometimes label processes whereby you feel you must undergo a particular process in order to achieve a certain idea. Therefore, allow us to begin as follows. Your mere ability to imagine something is your indication that you are of that vibration. You simply, again, cannot experience any reality that you are not the vibration of, even in your imagination, even with your desires. So therefore, in any given moment that you project a particular version of who you are that you prefer, in the moment that you actually create the ability to picture it, you are it. Now, very often in your society, there is many definitions that say that initially a particular momentum will begin with an idea. You will experience a series of steps or processes that then will allow you to experience that idea. And this is also one valid way to explore and one valid way to discover who it is you are. But understand that you can, if you wish, many individuals prefer the process for it allows them to validate the change. Simply understand that your mere ability to conjure it up, your mere ability to desire it, which is an emotion behind the belief that it excites you, is your indication that in that moment that you are able to even picture it, you are it. Now, if you simply will take this recognition and, as you say, run with it, you can then begin acting as though you would assume a person who was already that way would act and get the results of immediately being that you. But when an individual thinks of a particular idea that they perhaps strongly desire, they are in that moment that idea. They are the vibration of that idea. Very often they will then plug in the assumption that that idea is something to be achieved, not understanding that the mere ability to perceive it means you are it. You can only perceive something if you will become identified completely with the vibration of that idea. So the moment you picture a preferred you, you could only even do so were you already that you, enabling you to then picture how you already are. For again, being simultaneously and containing it all, you can express this in whichever way you want, whichever way you desire. But the mere solidifying it down to a solid idea and presenting that idea to yourself in the form of a desire is all the indication you need to simply continue to be that idea. Not, again, need to achieve it, which is as valid an exploration. But very often when we discuss things of this nature with members of your particular society and other societies, you seem, in that sense, to be in a great rush. So therefore, what can be quicker than instantaneous transformation? Nothing. So therefore, whatever it is that you can feel excited about, not only are you the vibration of that idea most literally to be able to perceive it, but also that desire tells you that you are able to handle it. You have every prerequisite that you can possibly need in order to fulfill that reality. The desire itself can also be viewed as your indication to yourself that you have the ability. Again, another idea that we have shared is you simply do not create a reality you cannot handle. And anything that you create within your reality, by its mere existence in your reality, allows you to know that you can handle it. If you assume that you cannot and proceed in action with that belief, you may create the effect of seemingly not being able to handle it, but the paradox and irony is that you are handling even that. You are handling the idea of not being able to handle it. Sounds again like semantics, and it is in a sense also semantics, but it can also be a concrete concept. So therefore, if you have any notion in any form of who it is you wish to be, assuming that you are not quite happy with how you are, then you can understand that you need simply, again, utilizing the tool of your imagination to extrapolate how one would act, to simply then continue to act as that you will already be that you. And your imagination, again, being a personal tool, a personal methodology through which you can utilize what is present in your reality and make certain choices in a positive way, is tuned to the vibration that you are. So therefore, when you conceive of an idea, you are it in that moment, and you therefore possess the imagination that you need, the portion, the version of your imagination that you need to allow you to continue to use that imagination along the same vibratory lines. So, therefore, perhaps now you can save yourself a bit of time. And perhaps also when reflecting back on games of what you might call your childhood, where an individual perhaps said, "You are it," from now on you can say, "Thank you very much, yes I am." Therefore, it all ties back to the fact that everything is all one thing, contained within the whole. It is all an extension of you, and therefore, you get to choose which portions of it have particular relevance to who you are. And when you go to the extent to decide that you wish to be a certain way, you are honing in on one particular bandwidth of frequency of all the available frequencies in your reality, and you are literally, even analogous to the sense of your radio dial, tuning yourself into that portion of yourself. So therefore, if you simply set the dial, if you wish, you can go forth and broadcast your new reality. So again, we remind you, your mere ability to conceive of a particular idea is indicative of the fact that you are that idea. This may be quite helpful for individuals who develop the desire, which means they also have the ability to simply simplify their reality and begin to consciously create from the now moment. For utilizing the fact that you are already it allows you to maintain your anchor, your grounding in each and every moment. And as we have often shared, allowing yourself to remain grounded in the moment allows you to begin to glean the positive opportunities that each and every moment holds. So therefore, if you now wish to consciously create a process and put it off into the future, understand at least that the mechanism is that is the only way you will accept the change, the steps that will allow you to allow yourself to already be it. So you do this either way. But what we are suggesting is you can cut out, or perhaps not create to begin with, intervening time that you often complain about. Therefore, let that sink in on whatever level it will. Understand that it is a liberating notion, for it allows you to simply be who you wish to be in any given moment. And if you find yourself, after having become the new preferred you, viewing a situation which may seem similar to a negative situation in the past, remember, you are now the new you. Therefore, if you have a reaction which seems similar to the old you, by definition, it is the new you trying on, so to speak, an old idea. But because you are the new you, it will never truly be the old you experiencing it again. It will be the new you creating the security to understand that you can still experience anything, even the old reality. And if you truly are acting as the new preferred you, if you find yourself beginning to have a reaction that perhaps you do not prefer, simply take a breath. Stop yourself, so to speak. Conjure up in your imagination what the preferred you would do, and this will come quite easily. For again, you are now already it. You are that preferred you. When you see what the preferred you would do, it will be quite simple to do that instead. For because it is the preferred you, you will simply love what the preferred you does. That will make it most effortless to do something different in a quote-unquote similar seeming situation. And remember, whenever you do something different in a similar seeming situation, you cannot help but get a different outcome, which will then allow you to see that it was not the same situation. It was the new you trying on, perhaps you can say, some old clothes, and then perhaps deciding to retire those clothes to goodwill. 'Tis up to you in how you wish to analogize it. Is that clear?
Yes.
Therefore, we will simply proceed to allowing you to be who it is you have chosen to be in co-creating this interaction with us. Allow us to also express our unconditional love and appreciation for your willingness to do so. And understand, if you like these ideas, again, you can only perceive something if you first contain it. So you are already the person, even in being able to understand what we are saying and absorb it, that can put these ideas into application, into action, into practice. And it will always be that action or the application of any of the ideas that are ever shared with you that will determine physically the new you. So when you become that vibration, I would assume that your actions will now be reflective of the new vibration. And you will always give yourself a system of checks and balances to see if this is so. And if it is not so, you need not despair. You can simply understand again that you are just checking to make sure that you can still create the old reality, even though it may be a bit unpreferential. Individuals do not wish to lose the ability to create even the misery. Therefore, you will always allow yourself to see that it is possible, though perhaps you will pick from a different set of probabilities. You are perfect creators. Perfect. You always create perfectly. As we have shared, even if you create misery, it is perfect misery. Therefore, you can create perfect joy by even having the notion. Perfect ecstasy. By even thinking that it might be possible, you begin to tune to that vibration. By then looking at perhaps what inner objections come up and handling them, owning them, and viewing what beliefs you have, that allow you to continue to withhold constant ecstasy from yourself. This will allow you to experience that all the time. This also can be instantaneous. It will be up to you. For your willingness to share with us in this manner and co-create interactions both within our situation and out in your external, so to speak, lives, I ask you now, how may I be of service to you? Shedding. All right, I'll say before we continue, allow me to again share the following idea. This is your planet. Therefore, our particular approach in general is, although we share and exchange particular styles of information for you and with you and to you and from you, We cannot do anything for you. It will always be up to you to apply or not apply or conceptualize or not conceptualize or simply file away and never use the information that we share. It is up to you. The affairs upon your planet, the specific scenarios upon your planet are your creation and your choice to explore. We choose to co-create and interact with you to some degree, but this will never take the form of what you might colloquially label interference with your personal affairs and with the affairs upon your planet, both economic and political. However, we can, in that sense, interact with you about your intentions to apply any given information. So therefore, we will begin this half of the interaction by allowing the floor, so to speak, to be occupied by individuals who may wish to share what they have derived as a proposal to begin to open up a dialogue with your government. We will not in that way say do it or don't do it, use it or don't use it, but we will make particular suggestions where and when applicable that may in that sense enable you to hone it down, because from our perspective, our only desire is that whatever is presented that is at all a co-creation with our energy is integrated, does not take the power away from yourself or the individuals you are communicating with, and follows the rest of the general criteria that we lie down. So therefore, comments we perhaps will make, but it will be up to you to do whatever you wish with the comments and to do whatever you wish with the proposals that you create. Therefore, on that note, allow us to now proceed. And if there are any individuals present who wish to share any ideas that you have either created or co-created, please do so now. Sharing.
Elan.
Yes.
We co-created a letter to, I believe, the government or the president in one night between two letters. There were 6 of us in a group, but actually, even though there were people that weren't present, their energy was and they were with us in spirit, so to speak.
Yes.
I'd like to read the letter to you.
All right.
We are a group who have individually had experiences with UFOs and or ETs. It is our opinion that with all the exposure through the media, including cinema, newscasts, and books, that there are very few people who have not heard of ETs and UFOs. However, the whole subject remains one of speculation, lacks credibility, and is not accepted as a serious subject for inquiry on the part of reputable research scientists. This is largely due to the disinformation and cover-up that has surrounded this subject since the 1940s.
All right. Now, perhaps again, we will allow you to proceed. However, one of the suggestions that we make is in that sense to word things in such a way whereby it will not seem that you are invalidating any chosen path of other individuals. So therefore, if you can word anything that might even come off even loosely as an accusation, as a simple statement of your perception of the facts involved, that may be helpful, perhaps in that particular instance. Do proceed.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, we have to take some notes. We are now entering the 90s, the age of computers with all the ease of access of information that has allowed. We invite you at this time to consider with us that your public has matured and is ready to take responsibility for the reality that they have co-created. More and more people are realizing that the government is an extension of themselves, even as those elected officials who compromise the government realize they have come from the people and were put into office by the consensus of the people. We have evolved beyond the us against them mentality of the 60s and have entered into the us and them understanding of the 90s.
Oh, how exciting.
We live in a time where there really can be no secrets and where deception, no matter how artful, is virtually impossible, as evidenced by the recent failure of Saddam Hussein in the Persian Gulf conflict. Satellite communications has virtually brought the most distant point on the globe as close as your television or computer monitor. Information is readily available. Many individuals have had some type of experience involving UFOs and or ETs. A typical response is to keep this information.
By the way, including one of your former presidents, your President Carter. who actually filed, as you say, a particular citing report with the appropriate authorities. Do proceed.
A typical response is to keep this information to oneself or share it only secretly to avoid, I can't understand.
Derision and ridicule.
Derision and ridicule, okay. It can only serve the better interest of all of us to share the experiences we have had with others and to allow the truth to be known. We invite you at this time to acknowledge the maturity of your constituency and their ability to be responsible for the truth. We are requesting a public disclosure of any and all information and physical evidence concerning UFOs and ETs. This can only serve to create an atmosphere of mutual trust and understanding between the peoples and their government. As we write this letter, we know what we know and can only guess what you know, and you know what you know and can only guess what we know. We are in this together. We co-create our reality even as we recreate. We co-created our government and our societies. As any chain is only so strong and its weakest link, so any society is only so responsible as its least informed members. This letter is our step towards creating an atmosphere of openness and trust within which we can all realize our goals and objectives. The provincialism of the Middle Ages gave way to the nationalism of the 1800s, which in turn gave way to the globalism of the 80s. We sincerely believe that this in turn is giving way to the universalism in the 90s. Many of us have absolutely no doubt that not only is someone out there, but representatives of many civilizations have been walking this planet and interacting with its inhabitants for a long time.
Perhaps you can say a few, but do proceed.
Perhaps since human beings themselves have walked this planet. Whatever the challenges we are called to face, there is no question that we will be far more effective together in an atmosphere of openness, honesty, and trust.
Then would be possible
where we to continue creating the separation that has, and that's it.
That has obviously.
Well, there's nothing there.
I'm sorry.
Well, so far, it is excellent. This is very, very, very conforming in that sense to the parameters that we lay down, again, without the blame and simply the understanding for perhaps those decisions having been made. There was a sensing on some level that it was for your best interests, but you have grown up. You're big girls and boys now, and you are willing now to accept this information as well as appreciate the spirit through which perhaps in a positive way it was withheld to begin with. Other than those particular observations, it is simply excellent, perfect. Now, understand the following as well. We have also suggested that the proposal in and of itself can take many forms, and it can be in whatever form truly excites you. Even if on initial examination, this would not have a direct effect. It can be a song, it can be a dance, it can be a painting, it can be a poem. It can, in that sense, be a news release. It can be in any shape or form that excites you. That is one facet. Very well done, very well thought out. Again, we had placed particular comments about some specifics. It is not necessary that you change anything, but we have simply given our feedback for it to be a co-creation. Therefore, if there is an alteration, we do request that you will then share that with us as well. But you are getting the idea. Now, the suggestion from our end would be to begin to allow yourself to attract into your consciousness particular individuals, the names of, the reputations of particular individuals, simply through synchronicity. You need not go seek this out, though if it excites you to seek it out, you will get that same effect as well. So therefore, you need not send it to only one individual, and it would also be a suggestion from our perspective that you do not send it to only one individual. It may not get to that individual at all. So therefore, now you can utilize the same excitement that you created, such a beautiful proposal that entirely empowered yourself and the government and simply proposed the sharing and exchange of existing information, and utilize that same excitement to determine where you are attracted to send it. And as well, perhaps you will consider the individual, aforementioned individual, your President Carter, as someone to, shall we say, involve in the process. All right?
Yes.
Is there someone else with a similar idea they wish to share?
Elan?
Yes.
A proposal such as this that's being sent to certain personages, should it be signed by the group with individual signatures?
That would be one suggestion, yes, for that carries a bit of weight in the style that your government relates to you, being that they are an extension of you. You may wish to utilize the existing lines of communication, and what you sometimes label many signatures has the effect of getting, shall we say, a bit more noticed. So it would be a suggestion that you amass, to whatever degree it is exciting, as much corroboration, in a sense, to this idea that it does excite you to do, but do not go door to door, out of your way, out of your excitement to do so.
Now, do you think sending one letter with many signatures is as impacting as many individuals sending individual letters?
Can be either. 'Tis up to you.
Very good.
Simply decide that on your own. But again, another suggestion is other avenues as well. You have a multifaceted personality. You have a multifaceted structure that you label your government. Therefore, the more facets you are willing to address and represent, the more enhanced or synergistic the overall effect will be. When it seems to what you consider to be your government that this type of idea, this type of message, this type of proposal is coming from many different directions, that will be the most effective way. Though understand, sometimes one letter can simply do it. So it will depend on your willingness. But should some other form of this expression excite you, or alternate forms of wording a letter or a proposal, or again, some of the other ideas we have suggested, go right ahead. For this can be an ongoing idea and need not be, as you say, a one-time shot. All right.
Thank you.
Over there, is there someone else who wishes to share?
Elan, yes, thank you.
What did you think of that, Theodore?
I thought that was quite marvelous. You picked up on my energy before I even raised my hand,
So to speak.
so to speak. Two suggestions, one brief, one not brief.
Oh, well,
The brief one would be that we all get together in the creation of an interworlds communications day, much like our Earth Day, involving
global networking, so to speak.
global networking. Correct, yes. If you have suggestions as to perhaps an appropriate day.
You are doing just fine. Simply trust your appointment of a particular day as well as your appointment of the concept itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Then the longer suggestion, this has to do with a letter that was written by a fictitious committee. Well, not really, what's fictitious? I call it the Pro-Eagle Committee. And it reads like this. Dear fellow Americans, it has come to our attention that there are within the federal government certain agencies and influential individuals who have been attempting for many years to displace the eagle as national bird and to replace it with the ostrich. The ostrichites...
All right. By the way, in some way, do you perceive in some way that you are invalidating individuals?
Yes.
Then at least go forth consciously and do so.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But it is satiric, but I don't think that...
We understand, but wish to point that out. For that idea, that approach, from our experience with your society, will be less likely to get a particular positive synergistic effect, though it may have the effect of polarizing certain individuals. Do proceed.
Well, okay. The ostrichites, let us call them, maintain that the citizens of our fair country are nervous Neds and Nellies, children who need to be protected from the dark side of reality. One expression of the ostrichite philosophy is the Central Intelligence Agency, which appears to have had and to have a free hand to conduct, quote, covert operations worldwide, and perhaps within our own country. Another expression of ostrichite philosophy was Project Blue Book, a supposed objective inquiry, Air Force, into the UFO phenomenon. In recent years, the truth has emerged. The real mission of Blue Book was to discredit reports of UFO sightings.
Ace.
The public should keep its head in the sand. Lord knows what the public might do if it ever took its head out of the sand. White people might even see the Constitution. They might even read it. The Constitution does not begin with the words, "We the ostrichites of the United States," or "We the Fortune 500," or "We the military-industrial complex." It begins with the words, "We the people of the United States." It is the people who established the governmental system by their consent to the specifications set forth by the framers. The people are the government. They govern the creation of the American system. They govern their representatives on a continuing basis by supporting them or not supporting them. They govern the power, as affirmed in the Constitution, to amend or to change utterly the Constitution itself. We, the people, might have spared ourselves a lot of confusion, turmoil, and perhaps a war or two had we reserved the honorific term government, with a capital G, for ourselves and referred to the well-known three branches as the gopherment. Go for this, go for that. To update the languaging of our beloved Jefferson, the best government is open gopherment. We, the members of the Pro-Eagle Committee, wish you to join us in affirming that the eagle is the one and only bird symbolizing the national spirit. Let the strength, courage, and far-sightedness of the eagle be forever an inspiration to the American people. Decide in your hearts that you prefer to know whatever there is to be known that has an important bearing on the national destiny. Decide in your hearts that you prefer to soar in the heights of heaven rather than sink your head into the sand. What we can see, we can deal with successfully. In the coming election, we urge you to vote for the Eagle-ites, whatever their party. The Eagle-ites are those who believe that the time for secrets has ended, that the time for full disclosure is at hand. Now that our memories have been refreshed and we understand that we are the government, let us exercise our powers by calling upon the government to bring out into the light all of its information regarding the UFO phenomenon and the details of its agreements with the civilization sometimes referred to as Zeta Reticulum. No need for alarm, fellow Americans. UFOs have been around for many thousands of years. If extraterrestrials had wanted to do us in, they could have done it long ago. When the full truth is known, we may discover that we are their children in a sense. Perhaps the so-called missing link was in fact the infusion into the ape of extraterrestrial consciousness. In any event, it behooves us, the government of the United States, to examine all available information on the subject and to determine as a people what, if anything, is to be done about the UFO phenomenon. Join with us in encouraging the government to open its files, open its books. Let us establish an open book policy which carries forward the spirit of the Freedom of Information Act. Usually, political changes reflect changes in the mass consciousness. Once a certain idea catches fire, so to speak, among the people, then it becomes a political inevitability. So, let us get something started. Write a letter not to your representatives in Washington, that will come later, but to yourself. Congratulate yourself for recognizing that you are in fact the government and that you're willing to take some responsibility for your country. By understanding yourself as the government, you are not elevating yourself over others, but simply recognizing that you are an aspect of we the people, no more than any other aspect, but also no less. You are equal to all the others. Next, decide to prefer an open book policy. Do you want a government that is completely above board, or a government that keeps its secrets hidden from you for your protection, of course? Decide in your heart and mind. Now tell yourself loudly which you prefer. I heard that. Thank you very much. Your decision will give added energy to the gathering momentum for governmental openness. Now that you have a clear point of view, please communicate that to friends who are ready to assume their responsibilities as citizens. And of course, write to your representatives in Washington, telling them nicely that we are all grown up now and don't need to have any information hid from us. Indicate that you are especially interested in the revelation of all information regarding the UFO phenomenon. And please further indicate that you would prefer that our security forces, or insecurity forces to be more exact, not destroy the crop circles that are being engraved in fields here and there throughout the country. The Pro-Eagle Committee thanks you for your willingness to play a positive role in the unfoldment of the next chapter of our wondrous national destiny. And that's it.
We thank you for your willingness to express an alternate version of this proposal. And understand, both proposals say the same thing, though in different language. Again, we do suggest when you are beginning to interact with individuals as equals, understanding them to simply be reflections of you and part and parcel, in fact, of your very soul and consciousness, that you will find it to be, in general, from our observations, correct me if you disagree, that they will be a little bit more apt to cooperate and exchange and share with you without their need, so to speak, to put up a defense against a particular attack on what they have done. Again, one of the ways we sometimes word this is that it may be most helpful in utilizing the understanding that you are your governments to suggest rather than protest. So the particular aspect that, in a sense, will invalidate what your government has done, we would suggest, in that sense, to look at that and perhaps decide if indeed that may have a counter effect to the one you desire, and also understand, though individuals will rally behind what you sometimes label sarcasm, individuals that sarcasm in that sense is directed toward will not, and in general will also put up a defense. Once that defense is up, the doors are shut in that sense. So we suggest you looking at this idea, absolutely make no statement that you must in any way change it. Simply suggest looking at those portions as perhaps not being the most conducive way. You see what it is you wish to say within these statements, but is there a more conducive way to allow them to understand that you understand what they have done without needing to put them down? If you will explore this, you will find more compliance from their end, is all we are truly sharing. But there is a whole nother perspective being presented here that we also thank you for as well. For do understand that when you are speaking of being your governments, and you are, in that sense, speaking of we the people are also the government. So this individual very creatively wrote letters to other individuals. And that will be another way, another approach. Not only that you would, in that sense, interact directly with the government, but also with all other expressions of the government. So perhaps, if you wish, you can comprise a proposal or perhaps a plan of dispersion of the style of information that would also be, shall we say, dispersed to members of the society to raise their particular awareness. Though again, our particular approach would be to do so in a loving way. That is up to you. Is that clear?
Very clear.
Do you understand that we are not invalidating the sarcasm, simply pointing out that it may have a particular effect which might, in that sense, have the overall result of prolonging the things you wish to accelerate?
Yes, I understand.
We understand, again, the notion that individuals will sometimes rally around the sarcasm. But if the spirit of the rallying is to attack, then that is not truly believing they are an extension of you, for you simply would not attack yourself.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to share along these lines? Yes.
What do you think of the effectiveness of submitting the first letter that we read to the newspaper editorial staff?
Again, if it excites you to do so, this falls into the category of it is your planet, and these decisions are the decisions that would need be made by you. Therefore, I assume you have a desire to do so. And therefore, again, please feel free.
Thank you.
Was there notations made about the particular comments we shared within that letter as well?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Again, there is no need to change anything. Simply, we make a suggestion, assuming that you wish that feedback. Anybody else?
I have a letter. I don't know if you want to hear another letter.
Now. Is it most likely that we will say no?
Okay.
Do share and be a bold expression of the gift that you are.
As a child, most of us were brought up to believe this is the only where and when. Now, many of us firmly believe where is infinite and when has no beginning or end. This alone makes quite a difference in one's viewpoint and life. We were taught to trust objective authority and are learning to trust what rings subjectively true. For lo, these many years, even lifetimes, we have lived under the threats and judgments of the religious and other human systems contrived by limited beliefs, distortions, and opinions. Now, in the transformational age of this planet and civilization, it is time to take back our power as individuals and stop giving it away to others. We are learning that the authority for our lives is only outside us when we place it there, and finding it works well when we take full responsibility for ourselves. Many of us are receiving great assistance with our broadening view of life from extraterrestrial sources. We know the governments in general, and President George Bush in particular, know considerable amounts of information regarding interactions with this planet from other civilizations. Many people's ability to improve the qualities of their lives could be greatly enhanced by the extraterrestrial information being offered for that purpose. Credibility from our governments would help to encourage people to let go of superimposed ways of thinking that are no longer serving them. They can teach us to become more conscious of what we are creating in our lives and able to have more of what we prefer. They can share perspectives that do not exist among us in this present range of awareness. It would help if you shared what you know, and no one will lose any power by doing so. It will simply redefine their position and power into a more equal and positive relationship. There are many sharings in our media and written materials already regarding fictional and actual interactions displaying blatant evidence that we are not alone. Hard copy and unsolved mysteries are examples of television programs frequently carrying such information. This might be a way for you to start leaking out what you know. Obvious interactions began in the 1940s, so there must be quite an accumulation of data. Looking around at our civilization, one can quickly discern great need in some areas and great desire in others for new information. The expanded viewpoint of the civilization on a planet called Essassani in particular is tailored to our needs right now. They are from our future, have lived lives here, and understand us well. These are exciting times. The obvious changes taking place are not accidental. Our future lives can include much higher proportions of positive experience, and we can control the speed at which that comes about by what we know. We thank you for the very demanding job you are doing in our behalf and would like to share more of it with you. We understand why the information has been withheld and want to express our strong feeling that enough of us are ready to warrant sharing it now, as it would assist all of us to come into a fuller awareness of what life includes here and elsewhere.
That's a great
We thank you and understand. In interactions such as this, there is, shall we say, an active participation from our end of many, many societies of the association. And they are, in their own way, in their own form, applauding you all for your willingness to act in this direction as a citizen of the multiverse. Also understand that it is no wonder, as you say, that many individuals have negative perceptions of what you call extraterrestrial life. In your 40s, 50s, and to some degree 60s, your society was literally inundated with many ideas. War of the Worlds, Invaders from Mars, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Invasion from Space, The Predator, The Thing, The Blob, The Terminator, Mars Needs Women, this idea. Therefore, is it no wonder that many individuals have been brought up spoon-fed on bug-eyed monsters? This is now being counterbalanced by a new style of information. That informational style takes the form of, shall we say, within your media, within your multimedia, of ideas which would be more representative of, shall we say, actual realities that are more relevant to this reality, since they are all real in some way, shape, or form, but not to this reality. And that would include your Close Encounters and your extraterrestrial or ET. This shows that the mentality is changing and that individuals are willing to begin to view themselves as, shall we say, a galactic family of sorts. In the particular instance of your movie labeled Close Encounters, it also elucidated on many of the ideas behind the fact that there was a bit of withholding from your government. But also within the confines of that particular presentation was the fact that when individuals are in contact, nothing can stop them in that sense, if they truly move on the excitement that comes along with that. So therefore, we thank you for your willingness to enter into these styles of discussions. And we also will open up again the beginning of the second half of the interaction next month of your time for any expansions or any ideas that will allow you to express more along the lines of your willingness to take back your power and to view your government as a true extension of yourself, treating it with the same respect that you wish to be treated with. That is what will get the result. That message, that very message that you are ready and that you understand can have an effect, and a very strong and far-reaching one. Therefore, again, from this end and our respective societies, hundreds of them, we thank you. Shedding.
Elan.
Over there, then there.
Actually, along those lines, I've been thinking that the drawings that I've been doing have serve it's like a function of
Thank you for opening up that door and allow us to share something with you, and then perhaps you can continue. This is one of the other primary ideas behind the usefulness and value, societally speaking, of what you are channeling. For the idea is it allows people in a very unthreatened particular atmosphere to begin to see other forms, other expressions of humaniform consciousness. And there are many. And in that sense, you are channeling a plethora of them, not only one or two particular societies. Therefore, should you find variations that begin to arise that do not analytically make sense, simply allow them in that sense to proceed. You are creating, in a sense, a cosmic photo album. And by allowing individuals to view these, they will see, even through the alien nests of it, familiar faces, which will break down many of the barriers that are created and begin again, in a sense, to brush up our image a bit.
Yeah, I don't feel any need to add to that. That's exactly, that's the sense of what I felt as the primary function of that is to...
But that is only one idea. There is an elaborate tale being weaved.
Okay. Yes, and I'm having much fun with it.
As are we, and those involved. And by the way, there is no pullback. There is simply a changing of the form. The allowance of your participation in actuality has the result of there being more co-creation, more participation. Though it seems like less, we understand this to be a paradox. There is more participation as you are willing to move on this.
Yes, I've seen that, where initially I felt like it was a pullback, but then I noticed that it was just a change.
In a sense, if you wish, you can consider it a game of catch. The parts that you are feeling to be somewhat alone is simply the ball is in your hand.
Yes.
Simply do what you will. Bounce it, throw it, do whatever you will. It will be caught and the co-creation will continue.
Thank you.
And to you. Over there.
Elan, I wanted to ask you, a couple times you and Bashar, and also Bashar through Daryl, have said in response to a question, let me see, or let me check and see if there is, this information is in the brain of the channel, so to speak.
Or if there is some corresponding translation that will at least be adequate to present the idea. Yes.
So if there is something very foreign to the brain of the channel,
it will generally come out sounding a bit strange to your ears.
So you still can communicate. But,
to some degree.
right, but it
Yes.
won't necessarily get the...
As we have recently discussed in another interaction, there are particular ideas that are part and parcel of the nature of our consciousness that simply have no translation. And this is the aspect of us that perhaps in this life you will never truly know by identifying with, but there is, shall we say, enough commonality that anything that would be immediately pertinent to you is translatable in some way. Very often, or shall we say sometimes, there will be the necessity for the issue to come up, which will then enable us to synchronistically, very, very lovingly, only nudging the channel toward certain information that even perceiving or reading particular passages will at least, whether or not they are conceptually understood, put in enough vocabulary for us to draw upon.
So if, for instance, if I remember one instance where someone asked about a particular location of a planet, and
there was no star chart in the memory of the channel.
Exactly.
This is one example.
so in other words, if...
And then in general, if applicable, if even necessary, we will then, in a sense, again, this is very loose, stray the channel's attention to a particular page and perhaps a particular astronomical book, thereby giving some frame of reference, if again it is significant. Now understand, very often it is not. It is simply not that important that an individual know that to be able to proceed, or they will attract it themselves, which would then do them a service in that way.
Right.
Yes.
That makes sense.
At this timing, again, allow us to remind you that when you conceive of an idea that you desire, you are that idea. Simply allow this particular statement to roll around in your consciousness in whatever way is comfortable. In a sense, the beginning portion of this interaction, what you sometimes call the introduction, was short, for the message is simply that. When you have the idea, you are that individual. You can continue to be that individual and get that effect from this point forward, should you wish. Therefore, again, we express our appreciation to you for your willingness to share the gifts that you are. And again, in no uncertain terms, understand that we learn a lot from interacting with you about the many aspects within our own consciousness, as well as what you consider to be aspects of your own. And the gifts that you give us are absolutely valuable and, in that sense, absolutely unique. We thank you. Pleasant dreams.